I'm Christophe Garcia, and I'm solution owner for synthetic user monitoring. And I have the pleasure to have with me today Ralph Beholz from Miele, and he will share with us some of his experience using synthetic user monitoring and real user monitoring at his company. I have to start with that. I plan today to show you some presentations, some demos about features that are not released yet. So I have to have this disclaimer just in case we change a few things before it's released. For this presentation, I will start with synthetic user monitoring with a short overview in case you don't know the application. And then I will focus my presentation on the way we are evaluating the performance via these dynamic thresholds. You might have heard already about that. I will continue with real user monitoring. Again, a short presentation of the application before going, and this is live labs preview, with some more words about the change point detection, the way we envision to monitor the performance and to evaluate the performance with real user monitoring. And in the second part, Ralph will present to us the way they are using synthetic user monitoring and real user monitoring at Miele to evaluate and detect performance issues and root cause analyze those performance issues with the tools. A bit of experience, live experience. Okay, so synthetic user monitoring. With this first slide, I'm just showing to you the mission. Synthetic user monitoring is a 24/7 monitoring tool to detect performance and availability issues for web applications from the client-side perspective. All the words of the missions are here. The way it works is very simple. When you have an application, generally the users for these applications are using their web browser to access the application. With synthetic user monitoring, we are simulating that with, on one hand side, a scenario. A scenario is the sequence describing the operations to perform on this UI. Very functional. Open the URL, click this button, wait for this text to be visible, type this text, and so on. On the second hand side, we have what we are calling the runner. The runner is where will be located the web browser, the real web browser. And we can have runners in the cloud or on-premise. And this is by running those scenarios on the runners that we are evaluating and capturing the performance and the availability of the monitored applications. For a bit more of details on how it works, regarding the scenarios are built via the Selenium IDE technology. This is not SAP. This is an open source, and you can use with this tool, you can record and replay some interactions on web applications. We also have the runners, as I said, and the runner, we are using Selenium Remote Web Driver infrastructure. So you can use any Selenium Remote Web Driver infrastructure. We are supporting all of them, provided they are compliant with the technology. As I said, this is where the web browser is located. And then synthetic user monitoring will regularly execute the scripts, the scenarios, in Cloud ALM, but by operating the browser located into the runners. So this way, it's really like an end user, like a real user. The real web browser is operated. From these executions that we have on a regular time, we will capture metrics, so timings, the time it takes for the application to respond and so on. We are also capturing metrics regarding availability, whether or not the scenario can be executed properly. And all is that is then stored internally, and we have a monitoring UI to visualize the results, see what happened over the time, compare the things from one runner to the other, so pretty much from one location to the other, for instance. And then you also have the possibility to configure events. For that, we are using the intelligent event processing mechanism. So this is something general in SAP Cloud ALM for operations. And via that, you can trigger automatic reactions on your situations, like emails, automatic emails, notifications, or create tickets, or whatever. Okay. So as you can imagine, we monitor the performance. We evaluate the performance based on the metrics we capture in terms of duration for the execution. But to know whether this performance is okay or not, we are using dynamic thresholds. So the objective for that is to detect the things with a good level of confidence without the need for you to configure fixed thresholds or to have too many operations in terms of configuration. Yeah? So another objective for that is to have something that automatically adapts, yeah, and potentially detects your seasonalities and consider them properly. The method we are using is the dynamic thresholds. So the dynamic thresholds, this is a very simple picture just to illustrate. We are using the historical duration, the historical executions, to try to detect a trend and base our thresholds on that. With a bit more of details, here is how it works. So initially, for the first execution, you have nothing. So we have nothing, we have no reference. So we cannot evaluate the performance with the very first execution. But then you will have your continuous executions, yeah, and over the time, we will start learning. We are entering the learning phase. So synthetic user monitoring at this time learns. It does not mean that we don't evaluate the performance, but at this stage, we are creating thresholds based only on statistical evaluation of the past data. Yeah. It's not as accurate as the prediction, at least you have something. And even at this stage, in case the measured execution goes beyond those thresholds, then we are raising an event. But after a while, generally it's between 3 and 5 days of data, synthetic user monitoring has enough data to start really predict something. So it will predict the next period of time, the profile of the next period of time, and then determine thresholds for this period. So the height of the threshold are determined based on the variability of your executions in terms of duration, yeah. So if the duration varies a lot, maybe the threshold will be a bit higher. If the data and the measure are not varying a lot, the threshold will be quite close to the curve. However, the learning is not finished. So we are in predictive mode. So at this time, we have the most accurate thresholds, yeah, but we continue to learn, and we continue to evaluate our thresholds just to make sure that they are still valid, they are still making sense compared to your actual executions. Yeah? And over the time, we are regularly, every 6 hours, re-verifying that our thresholds are making sense. And when we reach the end of the period, the calculated period, then we are recalculating the next period, not based on the first collected data, but this time on all the data we have. So it's continuously learning from your data. And then obviously, if you have a measure that exceeds the thresholds, this is detected as a performance issue, and potentially, if you configure that, an alert is raised. Yeah. So what we did is that we encouraged this algorithm to detect the daily seasonalities, because we believe that this is what makes sense. Yeah. So for instance, if you have usually some highest execution durations for your scenarios in the morning because people are getting connected, potentially you might determine that it's normal, and we will detect that, and the threshold will consider that. And will only notify you in case you start having an unusual situation. This is really the intent. In short, I will give you a quick demo. So on the system, it looks like that. So when I'm going to synthetic user monitoring, so here I am on a productive tenant. Okay. So I have one tile for each scenario on a runner with the current situation in terms of availability and performance. And what I can do is I can jump to some details. And here I have the curve for the performance. So by default, it's 1 hour. But I have the possibility to already display the threshold and see what the thresholds currently were during those executions. So it's not very visible that we have some variation, but if I start adjusting a bit the time range to have a bit more data, here you can see that the thresholds are evolving over the time. I have created a scenario where I have instrumented it a bit to have more visible trends. And yeah, it looks like that. So here you will have a better view of what happened. Yeah. So here I voluntarily injected a daily seasonality, a marked daily seasonality, just to illustrate better. But you have the thresholds that automatically detected these seasonalities and that were able to follow the trend to detect only what is unusual. Yeah. In terms of configuration, it's very easy. I can just access it from here. And if I go to the performance, I only have the possibility to enable it. So very easy in terms of configuration by default. Yeah. Okay, so nonetheless, for the advanced user, we thought that it might be interesting for you to be able to adjust this distance for the thresholds. Yeah. So this is a labs preview, so this is not available yet. And this is what we are calling the threshold sensitivity. So the idea behind that is for you to be able to have a general sensitivity setting, giving you the possibility to shift up and down the thresholds depending on how aggressive or relaxed you want your thresholds to be, you want your performance monitoring to be. And we have a second setting that will only act on the red thresholds, so the detection for critical situations. Yeah. So again, this is, and thresholds are then evaluated, performance is then evaluated based on these adjusted thresholds with the sensitivity. So the profile remains the same, it's just the distance that will give you a chance to adjust in case by default we believe it's okay, but just in case you want it to be a bit more aggressive or a bit more relaxed. In terms of live presentation, live demo, okay. So here I have just to jump to the lab tenant. And all this happens in the configuration, yeah? So I still have my tiles. And now if I open the configuration and go to the performance sections, in the evidence section, yeah, I have the possibility to configure a bit the thresholds. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, but here I have the possibility also to see which mode I am, yeah, whether I'm predictive or learning. And now, additionally, you will have this threshold sensitivity. So you will be able to shift up or down your thresholds and the yellow to red thresholds. To help you determine the height, we have a preview. Yeah. So you can see the past 2 days or 3 days, a bit of the future. You see the thresholds, the profile as computed by synthetic user monitoring, and you have the possibility to adjust with the things and see what it would mean after the adjustment. Yeah. So for instance, here, by default, those 2 peaks might not have been detected as an issue, but I can just adjust my curve and maybe make this red to yellow a bit lower, yeah, to make sure that this would have been detected, this kind of situation would have been detected as an issue. Yeah. When I'm done, I can just apply. I see that I have pending changes, I can save, and that's it. Okay. What we do have, discard. What we do have is that, I believe I prepared something here, yeah. We are also giving you the possibility to see what happened. So each time you have the possibility here, a marker, and you will have the possibility to see where the sensitivity is set at the moment of the capture, so that you have transparency and you know exactly where you were. Yeah. So this is for synthetic user monitoring, the dynamic thresholds, and the feature we plan to improve, to have additionally, which is the sensitivity adjustment. Okay. Now, real user monitoring. So real user monitoring, another monitoring, user monitoring solution that we have in the portfolio. And here, the idea is to provide to you transparency regarding the usage of your applications, of your business functionalities, and also the performance actually faced by the actual users. Yeah? So for that, when you configure real user monitoring, you have the possibility to activate for your systems involved in your operations. You have the possibility to activate real user monitoring, and it will start capture the user clicks, capture the subsequent request or subsequent request performed on all the systems. Yeah? All this information is then captured, put in real user monitoring. Along the things, we are also correlating all those captured data using SAP Passport. And the idea here is to be able to chain all the operation. Know that this click leads to this sub-request, which leads to this sub-request, and so on. So you have the full picture of the flow, like a bit like a trace of what happened. A bit more in detail, the way it works is that generally when an end user accesses something in the front end, in the request, there will be some identification items to identify the transactions. Yeah? And these items, Passport, is then transferred to all the other systems in the backend that are leading to the same, that are coming from the same operation. Yeah. And the same, by the way, the same thing happens also when you are going through the cloud. Yeah, so the Passport also goes through the cloud and so on. So all this data is then received in Cloud ALM, in real user monitoring, and processed. So data is aggregated, the correlation engine kicks on to correlate all those things, be able to make this chaining. And then in real user monitoring, you have the possibility to analyze and see what really happens in terms of usage for your monitored applications. Capturing the performance metrics is interesting, but knowing whether it's bad or good is even better. For that, we want to do the same, something similar to synthetic user monitoring, but due to the type of data, we cannot really have the same algorithm. Real user monitoring, you have a rate of captured information that is much higher, that is not constant, depends on the usage, the moment it happens, and so on. So the same solution is not possible. What we sought is what we are calling change point detection. So the objective with the change point detection is, compared to a traditional way in capturing the metrics, so yeah, by the way, live preview, this is not out yet. So it's the possibility to detect this performance issue, knowing whether it's good or not, but without creating too many background noises. Yeah? We don't want that every request that is bad leads to an event or an alert or whatever. We want to have this kind of latency. And we also want it to be simple, so that you don't have to configure tens of thresholds or things like that for it to work perfectly. Just to illustrate a bit, with the fixed thresholds, imagine that you have data points that are arriving, yeah? And if we have a fixed thresholds, okay, as soon as the data exceed the thresholds, even if it's just a little, then we would have an alert emitted, yeah? And this for all the data points, with a lot of alerts, as you can see, yeah, illustrated by those red points. The method and what we want to achieve is the possibility to, you still have the points, but you have no thresholds. What we do is that in case a first measure arrives that distinguishes a bit from the other because it's higher, okay, it's just a warning for us, but one measure is not necessarily critical. But if it continues like that, being above, after a while, then the system detects that as a kind of change point, an inflection point into your measure, something different, and we start computing the things, and this time we put potentially emit an alert, because this is a continuation, something that continues over the time. And if in the continuation some other data points arrives at the same level, they will just be added to these events. So we are, by that, achieving the fact of limiting the background noise. Yeah? Everything that is related, we put in the same bucket somehow. And if over the time the things come back to a better level, then we close this event. If it happens that there is one point that is above, okay, that could happen, but it's not related to the other bucket, yeah, because we had some better points in the meantime. so we just ignore it. It's just a singleton. But if we have other occurrences, they will be detected the same way, and it will lead to another alert. And the high of the points to be considered as an issue, and the distribution over the time to be considered as an issue, is all the magic behind the algorithm we are building. This is the difficulty, but this is what we are trying to build, to have the things as more accurate as possible. So now I will try the live demo on this one. Okay, still on the lab tenant, real user monitoring. So I have a few systems configured, and here, because I'm on the lab tenant, I have this new data change point, activated here. So for the time being, I have no data, but okay, I will try a larger time range. And here, for instance, for this system, I noticed that one change point has been detected. So I can click here. Okay, I see the curve, the evolution of the data. Okay, it's on one request in particular. I see that I had some other high points. Okay, the system tells me how many executions it represents. But here, apparently, it has been detected. Okay, I have much more users impacted. That's why this one has been detected and this one not. Okay, so this one is more important. I have the possibility then to just zoom in a bit, to have a bit more of information. And again, here I see, it's not that I didn't have some other points that were high. It's just that this one was first higher, and maybe it represents more executions. This one was only one execution, but again, this one was, 700 executions. That explains the things. And if I pick the arrow, I can see that, okay, it has been detected, so measured at 2751, but in reality, it started a bit earlier. So we have this delay, this confirmation delay, that this is a real inflection point, a real change. Okay. And here, you have different levels. So I believe I have the minute granularity, but you can go down to the second granularity to have a better view of really what happened on your request and better understand the situation by yourself. So this is real user monitoring, and this is this new feature, change point detection. Thank you. And now I will just welcome Ralph. Okay. For your case. Thank you very much.
Yeah, a warm welcome from my side. Ralph Beos, I'm a member of the SAP Basis team at Miele, and my main topic is monitoring the SAP environment. And I will give you some more details, or what not details, so in working in process, more or less. Some company facts. I assume most of you know the brand Miele, household appliances. We are a family company, family-owned, 120 years this year of tradition, and we have, as I said, household appliances for the end consumer as well as for professional, for example, for hospitals, for restaurants, for hotels as well. Around 22,000 people work for us in our turnaround, which is also important for the landscape. You should know that we have a couple of plants in a couple of countries, as well as in USA, which has been started this year. Sales subsidiaries, much more all over the world, and therefore you should know, get an impression that we have business not only for, let's say, from Germany to access the systems, as well as from other countries too. The landscape, we run SAP since R2, and so most of you who are working SAP for a longer time, you have an on-premise network as well. In the last years, I think 6 years ago, we started with the so-called HCE, which is now the BTP, more or less. And so that means that we also have a couple of, today, a couple of cloud solutions in place, and we have all these nice mixed together, and we have to cover that. Yeah, some facts, 169 on-premise systems, 1,815, also these are from the support portal, cloud solution, and 21 private cloud systems. Yeah, the evolution for Cloud ALM last year in March, after the technology days, we decided internally that we start with Cloud ALM. In April, yeah, we made the decision. In June, we start, click on in the support portal to provide or to deliver the tenant, and then we begin with some use cases where we defined, or where I decided we have to start. The first, because we will use ServiceNow as a ITSM trouble ticket solution, that it doesn't make sense to start with a monitoring solution when we cannot connect and deliver or forward the alerts to our ITSM, and some other things which will be very nice, because we know that the solution manager which we have in place for monitoring until now focused run, they're at the end of date in 2027, and that's some pain points we had to decide to start with Cloud ALM, as well as to cover the monitoring of the cloud solution, which from the solution manager point of view was only on the interface side, but not really inside the solution. Some HTML tests from user experience monitoring, but it's not really much. So a lot of things we have to cover, and what was done over the years. And since last year on the IMF Summit, I was also on stage with a colleague of Christoph to provide the setup of the synthetic user monitoring, as well as a little bit how to use that. And together with Christoph, I also developed some generic script which is in use. And but more and more we have to try to deploy the solutions to the different departments who work with the different solutions from the Cloud ALM to cover these different products. Like Ariba, we have C4C, and some other, a lot of applications, the BTP and the all of these things we have to cover. And after the last year ILM Summit, I create for internal a roadmap to inform my colleagues what's possible with SAP Cloud ALM, and to keep them aware, and to go together to deploy the solutions to monitor these different cloud solutions. Working with Zoom and Room. Because of the experience we made with user experience monitoring, we have details, we have a complex script, not only try to reach a website, it's also log in and make it, for example, in a CRM, create sales order, which is a typical sales process, or a service order. When you call as a customer, Miele, my dishwasher is bad, has a problem, please send me a technician, then this is an activity via browser in the CRM. And this is also some complex scripts we have already in place in user experience monitoring. We have to migrate to synthetic user monitoring to detect performance issues, especially performance issue, to detect that the system is not working. And at the point that's quite easy, but to identify that there is a performance issue and define the root cause, this is much more complex. And therefore, I was really interested to have a solution for user experience monitoring. And I think, and I saw that, or I can see now that Zoom in combination with Room do provide that for me. Yeah, we did some of the information, some work around. Start with synthetic user monitor. Yeah, it's totally new for me to understand what are the scenarios, the words, the runners, and also the technology we have there. We deploy runners in Gütersloh, where is our headquarter, as well as one in Australia and one in the US, to have this delay over the global. With Room, we also add the HANA system, as well as other ABAP system and some other solutions like was it Ariba or C4C, which provide room data to our Cloud ALM to have this all together for analysis. That's all I explained before. The example which I show you in the next slide is to create on-call repair, which I mentioned before. You have a problem with your dishwasher, for example, and you need help and you need a technician. So you call the central number while you have a problem. The service agent collects information, your name, with the integration of address services and so on, collect or find the address to validate. If you are not a customer until now, then you get a contact information and so on. All this will be done in the CRM, the so-called interaction center. It's similar the same in the current system. That is an example for our old CRM, which is running since 10 years. And the new CRM based on S4HANA, it looks similar the same. And at that point, this is exactly the point where an access to an external system is running from the CRM. You see on the left side, that's the user. That's the UI. It's running in the CRM, and that's what the user see. And in the background, when we try to order the technician, we must know which technician has time, and we can put on this activity. And there is an external system, which there's an FC call which validate is it possible to get a technician. And so this has been scripted. Scripting is more or less complicated. It's easy to record it, but then you have to prepare it. But when you have prepared it, then you have a couple of points where you know from your architecture, you know at which point, for example, the call to this external system is running. And so the script in the UI, as Christoph mentioned before or said before, has it's running periodically. In this case, from 2 runners. When you go in detail of a call, you see these steps. The steps are configured by myself. I say, okay, the first step is log in. Let's say, click in the interaction center, then choose a customer and so on, and go in, and organize a little bit the flow. And when a problem occurs in the picture before, I will analyze these runtime here, which is a red market. It's a get appointment date from the external system. I think, okay, it's an easy example, but it should explain you how it is working. So I think, okay, this is a runtime. Let's check more details. I go into the step analysis in Zoom, figure out these call, and with the information which I already know, the username, the system name, and the time frame, and the call in this case is mostly easy because it's more or less in the interaction center mostly the same call. However, then you can grab this data or this information, jump into real user monitoring. Real user monitoring, then you set all the filter things you need, the username, the system name, and then with selecting the time frame, because you know that from the Zoom recording, then you can identify the call. And when you then drill down into these, you will see, especially this call, where you see, okay, this is the call and a lot of RFC call behind that. That is a detailed view on real user monitoring. It's a simple view. I have sometimes saw big maps of calls and corresponding calls and details. For example, depends if you have connected all the systems who are in touch. Then you can see, for example, in the SAP HANA public cloud, all the SQL statements which we called. And that is really brilliant, because the access to these solution, real user monitoring or synthetic user monitoring, is independently from the access to the real system. And normally a developer or supporter do not have all these detailed access to go in all the systems and don't know all the dependency of the systems. But for analysis is really helpful. And when you see all the different details, here for example the correlation ID, or from the ABAP systems the root context ID, where you can use for further analysis, which you can use for analysis. Here's an example for a sales, create sales order in the V101, also a standard CRM tile. And you see a really complex information of which help you to analyze the runtime in detail. And you can then select where the pain point and go into details to analyze it. Maybe a SQL view, a view in an SQL database is not indexed, for example. Some findings until now, or for me, for those since a little bit more than 1 year, I'm always missing the SAP Commerce Cloud integration. But in the discussion on the last days with the open telemetry, I assume that there are ways to integrate that for having this in the big, complex landscape, and visible in Cloud ALM. For them, I have two improvement requests. One of them, I know that Christoph is hard working on that. The problem is when I activate the availability alerting. That means when the script is not running on one of the runner, you get an alert. And when you know that when one runner is not working, or while the connection, for example, from US to has been broken for a short time, but the other scripts from the other runners are working, you will have no alert because all the runners are green. But if you have 3, 4, 5 times the problem which occurs in a chain, then you know there must be a problem, and then I expect that alert. That is what a configuration. It's also possible in user experience monitoring, and Christoph will provide it in the next month, I hope. Takeaway, also from my last session last year, start with Cloud ALM, and I think Zoom and Room are really nice. For our internal plan, we don't. At the beginning, I start connecting all our ABAP system and make the lights on, but it doesn't make sense to put all the things together. Start with the Cloud ALM, the cloud solutions, which is not covered until now. And then, as I think with Zoom in combination with Room, you have a good starting point for performance analysis, especially in the basis team. But I assume also in different departments who take care of the development and the stability in case of a problem. Yeah, when you start with Zoom, you need a Selenium skill, you need a little bit HTML, CSS, XPath methods. So the best thing is you have a developer who knows all these things, and then it's much easier to start. For me, it was a big learn curve. However, it's necessary. Yeah, as I mentioned before, I created a showcase internally for 45 minutes to explain my colleagues the benefits and the possibilities in Cloud ALM. And yeah, it's a daily, not a fight, but it's a daily things I have to provide to explain them and to pick them up and to say, okay, now they are working on to improve all the things, and let's go on. And especially this year, I really wonder about the open telemetry add-ons, and I think especially for the integration of the BTP, monitoring the Java apps, is a big thing we can cover. So thank you very much. After the session, when the Q&A has finished, I will show some things live.
Hi.
Hello, thank you for the great session. I would like to ask, with this synthetic user monitoring, when the thresholds are calculated automatically by AI, what happens if the system is deteriorating quite slowly and the thresholds are like rising up, and the system is going bad? Is there a way how?
Slow drift, you mean, yeah? Slow drifting. Yeah, this is something, currently we are mainly focusing on anomaly, not anomaly detection, I don't want to use this term, but abnormal situation. But yes, over the time, that's a very good point, and we think maybe about having also additionally, in case, a kind of fixed limit that you can set, additionally, just to tell, okay, you can detect something, but if you go above this limit, that's my max limit.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. Thank you.
Thanks for asking that. Good question. Thank you. Hi.
A question for you. I saw on your slides that you will migrate to FRAN in 2026. Which use case will you use there, and why, if you have already implemented Calm?
F1. You're moving to F1 additionally to Calm.
Yeah, the point is, that's a question about migrating from solution in that way because of 2027, right? And while we have to monitor the on-premise system after 2027, we will not have all the things in the cloud or wherever. So we expect with our old ERP system, for example, we will run that after 2030. And therefore, we have to cover these on-premise monitoring. And Cloud ALM, for now, for example, only for basic system monitoring from Solution Manager. In Heels monitoring in Cloud ALM does not cover all the things I expect today. And also the strategy is not that to pump up all the things from the what we know from a Solution Manager into Cloud ALM. And therefore, I think for those customers who have Solution Manager in place and have more after 27 on-premise system running, which they have to cover, I assume we have to start with Efron.
So that means that the system that you are now using for SIM and RUM will not be connected to FRAN, or will they do both?
No, okay, yes, I know what I mean. First, I start with all. I set up the Cloud ALM setup for all the ABAP system and enable it. But then I saw that the space of the the tenant was growing up to 20 gigabyte. And I say, okay, that's not the way. I reduced that and switched off a lot of Heels monitoring, for example, or in the interface and exception monitoring. I only collect the error messages. to reduce the amount of data in the Cloud ALM. And it was a development by myself to understand how this works and what makes sense. And then I said, okay, it's nice, easy to connect the ABAP system with all the different capabilities, but it doesn't make sense. So I have to focus, and the focus is cloud solutions, which is not covered in Solution Manager. And then I'm on the way to create my plan, the roadmap, how to go over the next years until the end of 27 with the different use cases in Solution Manager. And for the monitoring, which I cannot cover in Cloud ALM, I have to set up Focusrun.
Thank you.
Other question?
Hello, and thank you for the session today. My question is around the runners specifically and the infrastructure around it. I also saw that we have some Selenium web drivers available as a Docker images.
Yes.
And now as we have Kima in BTP, so I was just thinking, can we host that Docker image over Kima in our own landscape and leverage it as a infra?
Normally, yeah, from Cloud ALM, you mean, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, for the runners, it exists, you're right. Some images that already contains all the pieces required to make a good runner. And the Selenium remote web driver, the browser, the driver, and the server. And in this case, provided it follows the rules and it follows the specification, yeah, it can be used.
And I also saw there is no specific recommendations for the Selenium versions also.
No specification for the version for the server. As usual, yeah, you have to take care about security and so on. So you have to. Yeah. It's recommended to follow the trend, but we have no special recommendations. That the same for the version for the browsers and so on. Yeah.
Okay. So that means we can host them homely on BTP itself, the runners, if we have.
This is possible. We have some also on our development system stored on Cloud Foundry, for instance. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I don't know if there are other questions. Okay.
If you have further question on the slides, there's my contact email address and phone number. If you are interested, please call me. I like to share my information, my knowledge, my experience, and yeah. Let's do it.
Thank you. So